Welcome. Last month we talked about liminal space and some of the ways that we distract to not go into liminal space. And today we're going to talk about 3 of those strategies. So you're going to just tell us a little story.
Yes, Goethe, a German poet, wrote a story about a guy called Faust, and he was an aging philosopher, and he was nearing the end of his life, and he was just in despair. He had no answers, and he was actually contemplating taking his life. And just as he was preparing to do that, outside some Christmas carolers came around, and they began singing about God, and the Spirit of God moved in his heart, and he was drawn to it, and he moved toward them, and his heart became lighter. And as soon as that happened, Satan sent an emissary along, and he offered Faust a deal. He said, I'll give you all the riches, I'll give you youth, I'll give you power, I'll give you whatever you want. But the deal is that when you die, you're mine. And so Faust took the deal, and he moved away from the message of the carolers, and he saturated his life with distractions.
Well, in a sense, he made a pact with the devil, didn't he?
He certainly did.
There's a lady called Karen Horney, and it was around about the 50s, that she began to think about this pact with the devil. And she believed that we do this in one of 3 ways. And the first one is moving away. And that sort of says, if I can withdraw, nobody's going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is moving toward. And so the pact with the devil there is, if I can get you to love me, I'll never be hurt. You won't hurt me. And the third one is, if I have power, nobody can hurt me. And so we identify with 2 of those. I'm definitely the moving away, and you're more the moving towards. Let me just talk about the third one, moving against. If I have power, no one can hurt me. So this is the person that just wants to be number one. And they may do it through achievement. They may do it through asserting their personality. But it's like if I can't be vulnerable at all, because that would give you power. And so I won't be vulnerable. I'll try and step over people to get what I need. And it's power against.
Those are very difficult patterns in life to adjust or to alter or to change, aren't they?
They are, and I'm thinking of somebody particularly who adopts the third strategy of disconnection, if you like. Brene Brown calls them shame shields. So they're a way of not kind of dealing with our shame. And they're the early messages that we were given about ourselves, that something about me is unacceptable, so I have to hide it. So the moving against person is like, I can't be vulnerable because I'll get hurt.
The third person, the moving against, they use their shield in a very combative style sometimes.
That's right, yeah. It's very much, I'm right, you're wrong. And they would quickly even get into fighting very quickly to assert that they are right. The power over is their pact with the devil.
They sort of don't recognise that little saying, if one wins, we both lose.
No, not at all.
They live by, well, it's important to win.
Yeah. The one I'm more familiar with is moving away.
Oh, really? I wouldn't have guessed.
And that's, if I withdraw, no one can hurt me. And I remember making a pact with the devil early in our relationship. I'll never need anyone again, especially you, because to need hurts. And so I shut down, absolutely, completely. And I would not enter into discussion or relationship repair. I would just, if you hurt me, I'd shut down, and I might lock myself in my room and cry and experience all those emotions myself. But I would not engage with you, because that would end up hurting. So it was almost like, I'll reject you before you reject me.
So does that come into play with liminal space? Is that a distraction? How does that tie in with that?
I guess for me, it's, for us to move forward in our relationship, we have to do relationship repair.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been really good at that. And so if I sense hurt or distress or any of those things from a conflict or a look or something like that you've done, I freeze and then I totally shut down. And it's very hard to repair something when one person is shut down.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on it, but I still want to come back to that liminal space concept. In that you were talking last time that there was a real struggle there when you were in liminal space, and I'm just wondering how this plays out in it. The distraction is to move away, to shut down.
Well, I can use other sorts of things when we're not in lockdown to do that. I can go out of the house. I can go somewhere. I can go up the shops. I can write. I can do all sorts of things to distract myself from being in that space. If we've had a tiff, and I have to deal with the fallout from that.
So I guess what I'm saying there is it may not be something that's between us, but it may be an external event that can influence the movement away. But in reality, it is relational. I guess it's the relationship with God. If these things are happening in my life, where are you? What's your role in what's happening?
I guess that, do I run to God or do I run away?
Yeah.
And that all depends on what my image of God is. And in the past, it was very much a sense of, well, he's distant, he's uninvolved. So, I would move away as well. There wasn't that sense of closeness. What about you in terms of moving toward?
Oh, I definitely can identify with the moving towards. I think very young I learned that the way to feel less vulnerable and unprotected was to get others to like me. And so I would work very, very hard at getting other people to like me in order to avoid having to face what was going on inside of me that needed that. To be liked, the struggle with knowing who I was and being able to live in that space and accept that. And so, I worked overtime in getting people to like me.
So how does that kind of come into our relationship?
Well, I think my movement is when anything goes wrong is to try and appease and to get you back to where you're liking me. It becomes very personal, even though it may not be. You may be just struggling with external things like COVID or liminal space or something like that, but I feel it personally. And so when I sense that distance, I see it as a breakdown in the connection. And for me, connection is extremely important. So I then begin to work at rebuilding the connection, trying to restore it.
Which is really hard when we're both kind of, our pact with the devil is opposite to each other.
Yeah.
Yours is, if you love me, I can be okay, and mine's if I move away, I can be okay. It's sort of given us a few problems over the years, hasn't it?
It has, because as you've said, they're contrary. They're just they're in opposition, and so that has been a difficult area for me to be able to see beyond taking it personally and see you and your struggle and where you are in it and move more toward that than to even though my movement is to win affection. If I don't have it coming my way, I close down very quickly.
You get quite resentful.
Yep, and the wall goes up. The thing about my movement toward is it's sensitive and it's defensive. So as soon as there's a pushback or a rejection, it's like one of those flowers that you touch and it shrivels up. I go whoomp, and I'm back in my own world, sealing up things, making sure my shield's in place, and I'm totally self-protected.
Yeah, and over the years I've experienced that moving towards as a smothering. You know, I must respond in the way that you demand, or you'll cut me off. And of course I'm the opposite. If I sense the demand or, any sort of pressure, I'll just shut down. So here we go in this loop of suffering that neither of us could get off for many years.
Well, you see the movement toward looks as if it's for the other, but it is totally not. It's for me. Wow. And so I think you sense the underlying lack of integrity in that movement, and it's true. And so you respond to the message beneath the words and the actions because you see the reality.
And mine's easy to pick. It is for me. I just shut down and defend myself. And, I never, for years, I would never ask for what I needed because I didn't know what I needed. When I was a little girl, it was like emotional invalidation. So I learnt that if you have needs, you'll get hurt. And that came out in that vow. I'll never need again because I get hurt. I allowed myself to be somewhat vulnerable and I got hurt.
I mean,
it's ugly, isn't it?
It's ugly, but it's the reality for many of us.
Yeah.
If I need, I become vulnerable. And so somehow I have to deal with that need so that I don't feel the vulnerability. And it's just like a conundrum. The thing I want most, I don't want to risk. I'm too scared to go for.
You talked about how you began to break that devil's pact. For me, it was very much associated with those early messages. No one will come for me. I'm on my own. Don't need. You'll get hurt. Reject before you get rejected. And very much, I had to come to see that God says, I'm never going to leave you nor forsake you. And the movement for me was from taking that to my head, from my head to my heart. And that's been quite a long journey for me.
Mine would be similar as to the journey from the head to the heart. I think we knew all these facts. We knew the data about it. But how do you make data a reality, something that you live by, something that changes you internally? And when I look back, God used many things. It would be a book. It could even be a movie that would just touch me and cause me to, or just arrest my thinking or my feeling about those things. And of course, just embracing the whole identification in Ephesians chapter 1 at a very God-timed space in my life really gave it a shift, a push from the head. I think it got halfway down to the heart in one hit, and that was very helpful. The other thing is to know what needs to change. That's important.
Well, I think knowing that about each other has really helped me too, in that when you do that, it's your survival strategy. That's the way you survived. And so in a sense, it's not personal. It's something that you have struggled with and do somewhat same as me, to continue to struggle with.
And the other thing that's helped me is to voice it.
Yeah.
To stop fiddling around and hiding the thing. It's there, bring it out in the open. It's a lot easier for you to see and for me to deal with. And the more I voice it, the less hold it seems to have on me. So I've found that very helpful.
Yeah. We'll keep working at it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.